I don't normally respond to questions like this in videos just because I want to make sure if I make a video, it has a broad appeal. So it's evergreen, meaning it's useful for a long period of time, one, and two, it's got a broad appeal to as many people as possible in the audience. I do get a lot of very, very specific questions from you guys on Facebook, off the YouTube channel, and emails, and I just can't respond to them all. There's an autoresponder that's set up. So if you have a specific question to your unique situation, book my time on clarity.fm and we can talk one-on-one. I can solve most people's problems in less than 20 minutes. All right. So this guy's question is, he's a very late bloomer. He's just under 30 and graduated from engineering school. So he's got a decent career lined up for himself. He considers himself a late bloomer, struggled with self-esteem, confidence issues as long as I can remember, and I've only recently made breakthroughs with the help of wonderful therapists. Now, I've said this before, I think, in videos. If you got some shit you got to work on, don't be shy. Don't be afraid to pay a specialist, a clinical specialist, to help you work through your stuff. I've used them in the past. I've found them very useful, and I've recommended to other people, even that I have coached specifically, to speak to somebody that can help them further with that unique situation. Anyway, he goes on to say his problem is I wasn't having sex with lots of beautiful women, and he feels like he's not a proper man. I used to think I'm not a proper man, is what he says. It seems like everybody else was, and sometimes I feel like I've fallen way too far behind. Then he goes on to say, should it be a priority to start pursuing women, perhaps like a pickup artist? And what do you think about porn, prostitution, strip clubs? Are these things healthy environments for men? Right. I've got full tank of gas. I got to get some cold medication because I'm coming down with something. So let's get into that. Your first question is, I feel like a late bloomer. I haven't had sex yet, basically what you're asking. Well, let me get this thing out of the way so I can see where I'm going. I was, I think, a week or two before my 20th birthday when I lost my virginity. And I remember I made it a point. I'm like, I'm not going to be a 20-year-old virgin. And, you know, I was dating my first girlfriend, and that was my cherry pop. So, you know, some people pop their virginity a little earlier than others. You know, for whatever reason, whenever I've talked to a woman, it always seems to be when she's around 14, 15, or 16. But anyway, let me tell you a little story about something that happened in sex ed class last year of high school. I don't know if it was sex ed or phys ed or something like that, but I don't know, I seem to feel like I was around 16, 17, or 18 or something like that. And there was a survey that the teacher did with the classroom. There's about 30 kids in the classroom, and he asked us a whole bunch of questions about sex and stuff. And one of the questions was, are you a virgin? And I was at the time, but I lied on the survey and I said that I wasn't. And my best friend who was sitting beside me, I knew wasn't because, well, I routinely heard him banging his girlfriend in the next room when we would hang out sometimes. So he also replied yes. So there was 2 people on the survey that said that they weren't virgins, and I was one of them, and I was lying. So that just kind of gives you a ratio. I know that you said here that you feel like everybody else is getting laid and you're not. That potentially could be deceiving. So don't let what other people are doing govern you. Again, I take an alternative view on a lot of shit when I talk about things and when we go down the red pill rabbit hole. But yeah, don't let that bother you that much, because for the most part, a lot of people are full of it. All right, the next thing you wanted to know. Pickup artistry. All right, let's spend some time on this one, because I've read, actually the first book that I read by Neil Strauss was The Truth About Relationships, which is a fascinating book. You should grab it. Actually, I'll link it in the low bar. Really, really interesting when it comes to intergender relationships, because it kind of goes down this path of exploring almost every possible aspect of it. But the book that he wrote before that made him really popular was The Game, and which is basically him diving into the pickup artistry community. And he talks about certain people that are still very prominent today, guys like Mystery, who's the Mystery Method guy, a lot of the RSD people like Real Social Dynamics, like Tyler Durden, Todd Valentine, and a whole bunch of these other guys that are all, you know, PUA guys that have big PUA communities and YouTube channels and stuff like that. They have classrooms and they bring guys together and they teach them how to pick up women and get laid. And it was pointed out in The Rational Male by Rollo Tomassi, linked below if you haven't read it yet, one of the best books you can possibly read on intergender relationships, is that that pickup artistry is like giving dynamite to children. And I agree with him, and I'll tell you why. It doesn't teach you about becoming a better version of yourself, about dealing with inadequacies and all kinds of problems. And there is a very obvious point that was made about Mystery, who's one of the most famous pickup artists, was that even in the book that Neil Strauss wrote, he became a blubbering fool when his girlfriend broke up with him. His Katya was her name. Okay, this guy, was famous for being able to pick up any woman, close any deal at any time, and he ended up like a blubbering little baby when it didn't work out. So it just goes to show you that pickup artistry will obviously deal with social ineptness and discomfort, and of course get you laid. I mean, it seems like anybody that can follow the steps and things can obviously, get a woman into bed. But how do you deal with the intergender relationships after that? That's the sort of stuff that Rollo Tomassi talks about in The Rational Male, which I recommend as one of the best books you can read to understand the dynamics between men and women and the way that they communicate and connect, and understanding them at a much, much deeper level. I don't think pickup artistry is the answer. If you want to get a quick lay, or if you want to, I guess, up your game, or strengthen your confidence, your self-confidence by closing some deals, I think that'll help. But it's not the solution, and I wouldn't rely on it solely to become a better version of yourself. I just suggest staying away from stuff like that. And the last thing that you asked was porn, prostitution, and strip clubs. Are these things a healthy environment for men? I don't see anything wrong with porn. There's a good group of people that think that porn is destructive or ruins society, humanity, men, whatever. Women masturbate with their vibrators and with their mind, visualization. They don't usually rely on porn. Guys are more optical. So, the cosmetics of how, boom's a bum and everything like that looks matters to us. And rubbing one out is basically how we, please ourselves when it comes to porn. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I mean, if you've got like calluses and bloody hands because you're jerking off too much all day long, then it's probably a problem. But rubbing one out once a day or once every other day or whatever is not a big deal. I don't see a big problem with that. And guys do rely on porn. So just as long as you understand that, this isn't the real world. Like, you're not going to have a date with a girl and she's going to show up with a pizza and start blowing you as soon as she walks in the door. And, there's a standard, 5 moves and you cream pie her face. It's not, that's not the way that it works in the real world. I mean, it's a fantasy. Just understand that that's all it is. Prostitution. There's nothing more honest than prostitution, if I can tell you the truth. I mean, it's the oldest profession in the world, in the history of humankind, is somebody paying a woman for sex. I mean, women never pay guys for sex, not that I've ever heard of anyway, because they're really the sole decision makers when it comes down to who they're going to sleep with. But nothing wrong with prostitution. I mean, if you want to pop your cherry by booking yourself a prostitute or an escort or whatever, have a blast. People have done it. It's not that big of a deal. I certainly wouldn't judge you. It doesn't matter. And then strip clubs, are these healthy for men? Nothing wrong with strip clubs. I mean, they're fun. You can go there with your buddies and pound a few drinks. I've frequented the strip clubs in my younger day. I guess you kind of grow out of, stuff like this, like the porn and the strip clubs and all that. Strip clubs are, they're more sexually frustrating. I'm going to tell you a story of a buddy of mine. I took to a strip club once when he had never been. He was in his early 30s. So we had taken him, and 5 minutes after going up to the VIP with the girl, they do the one dance for $20 or whatever it is. He comes back and he's like, "Okay, man, we got to go." And I was like, "Why? We just got here. I just ordered a beer." And he's like, No, we got to go. And I said to him again, "Why do we got to go?" And he's like, "Because I came in my pants and we got to get the fuck out of here." So you're going to get sexually frustrated going to strip clubs and things like that, because that's what they do. They tease you. They want the upsell. My recommendation: work on yourself. Fuck all this nonsense, PUA, prostitution, strip clubs. When you're the absolute best version of yourself and you love yourself and you're happy with yourself and you're the strongest version of yourself and you've dealt with your shit, whatever your shit might be, you've probably got some shit going on. I mean, if you're talking to a clinical psychologist and you've had massive breakthroughs, there's obviously some shit that's gone on in your life. So once you've worked through that, and you figured out whatever it was that was holding you back. I mean, you're obviously a smart guy if you've graduated engineering school, but whatever it is that's held you back, you've been working on, keep working on it. And, Mrs. Right or Ms. Right will show up at some point. I made a video not too long ago, about a week or so ago. I'll put a card up where I was talking about what you should be doing in your 20s and not focusing on a relationship with a woman is one of them. I'm not saying don't date women. I'm saying just don't make that the focus of your 20s. Make understanding yourself, tuning into your intuition, becoming a better version of yourself, dealing with whatever shit you might have, mommy issues, confidence issues, whatever it might be, and pushing forward.
All right, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed that clip. If you want to check out the full-length podcast episode, you can find that right over here. Also, make sure you visit my website over here where you'll find my supplements, the opportunity to book me privately one-on-one for coaching, and most importantly, my new School of Unplugging, which you'll find on the courses tab. Newer to the channel, hit subscribe.